Hello, good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain, so.
And here in Lagos, good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is November 21. It's a Tuesday morning, and it was just yesterday that former President Obasanjo was saying something that a good number of people have been talking about, actually. Because, you would remember that almost every election cycle, we talk about the challenges of our democracy, how expensive it is. Should we go back to the parliamentary system? Should we go back to the presidential system? Well, former President Obasanjo has also been speaking again. He was speaking yesterday in Abeokuta, Ogun State capital, on what is called a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy for Africa. And the former president said, as far as he's concerned, Western liberal democracy has not been a system of government in Africa because it was forced on the continent, and consequently, we should begin to rethink that style of government for us. He said, and I quote, "The weakness and failure of liberal democracy as it is practiced stem from its history, content, and context, and its practice. In short, we have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it even when we know that it is not working for us." Now, that raises a whole load of questions. So what do we do? Where do we go? Well, let's listen to the former president for a bit.
We have a system of government in which we have no hands, define and design, and we continue with it even when we know that it is not working for us. Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability, and its relevance. Without the essence of any system of government is the welfare and the well-being of the people, all the people. Here, we must interrogate performance of democracy in the West where it originated from, and with all the inhibition, what we are left with over by the colonial power.
Interestingly, Nigeria got independence and was introduced to the parliamentary system of government. And it is still a historical fact that the progress that Nigeria made during that First Republic is tremendous. There are those who still reference the healthy competition among the regions, the north, the southwest, and the southeast of Nigeria. The northern region, the western region, and the eastern region of Nigeria, the healthy competition that occurred between those regions, within those regions. Post-Civil War, and I think 2 or 3 military governments after, for the same former president, while in the military as head of state, because because of the clamor for democratic rule, it was his government at the time that introduced the presidential system of government to Nigeria for the Second Republic. Of course, that didn't last more than 5 years. Then we attempted it again in the Third Republic, and again, that didn't last for too long. I think that was between 1993 or thereabout, 1990 until about, say, 1993. But we never got it through because it never really saw the full light of day until 1999 when we started this Fourth Republic. So 3 republics of the presidential system of government, and here we are making this suggestion. So if we're going to take this further, where should we go? I know that we have had constitutional conferences since 1995. I think we had in 2005. We had in 2014. At what point did anyone even make this recommendation at all? What are the issues we are having with our democracy or the practice of it? So many issues to raise here, but I guess it's just questions, Chamberlain.
Well, there's so many things really about this one. I mean, he having been president second time, and then the second term he had 2 terms, and so yes, he's operated that as well. And okay, I'm not too sure about the context where he says those who brought it to us are questioning its practicability, but if we're going to go with results of what we do have here, because don't forget, he too was at the helm when we moved over from parliamentary system to presidential system. I guess maybe they were wondering at that time too, because, you know, much as so many people are talking about us having proportional representation right now, so that this zero-sumness of our politics, where many think that that may be the bane of our challenge exists. So they think if we get back to that proportional representation, you might address that. Again, the jury's out on that one. But we also do know, if we were to go with what he's suggesting, it's an Afro-democracy. On that, I'd like to hear how that will work first before we begin to interrogate that, because we all know, having tried the parliamentary system, we've tried the presidential system. So I guess because right now, if you ask anyone, or at least several, the generations ahead of us, in terms of their experience when we had regional government holding sway, the kind of development that happened at that time. In fact, they always tell us that at that time they had better than we're at today. They went on scholarship, the value of the currency was really strong. Foreign persons were coming here to study, education was strong, it was booming. There was healthy competition among different parts of the country. Universities were competing, the economy was booming. That's why some think we should go back to that one. But fast forward to present day. I know there's some persons, including the speaker, if I recollect properly, where he did say they were going to give some sort of legal backing or constitutional backing to traditional rulers. So could his Afro-democracy suggestion also factor in, or was he considering that as an option? We don't know. So, but now it's going to be very interesting to see what his concept of Afro-democracy means. But that suggestion of this not working for us, that singular idea, will definitely resonate with a lot of people. Haven't seen the way our elections have gone over time, even recently. So yes, they'll tell you, we need to do something, so that you have a lot more people determining, not just, even though, yes, in a democracy, you have to have the courts to decide certain things, but it's not coming to them as though justice is being seen to have been done. Again, that's a view out there. So rightly or wrongly, that is a perception, even though they say, yes, it must not just be done, it must be seen to have been done. So in light of that, we'll just wait to see but even if we were to do that, what would the components of that Afro-democracy mean? But the results we see here, I think there will be a standard point of measurement, whether or not whatever we're practicing is working for us. I know the World Poverty Clock, even as of June 2023, shows that 71 million Nigerians are extremely poor. And then, what about that data from the MBS that talked about 133 million Nigerians multidimensionally poor? So, and then you look at the stats, the figures. In spite of all that successive or different previous governments have put in place, figures appear to be going south. So, in that context, we need to have a rethink. But what exactly it would be, and we all seem to agree with this, because democracy, he says here, is about few people, not just government of the people, for the people, by the people. But this one says few people. So, some use the word cabal, interchangeably with few. So, I think it's an interesting convo that even if we were to have electoral reforms, for instance, we've had several. So will it still address the challenge that we've got? I think we'd like to hear from everyone out there. Is democracy working for us? So what is this Afro-democracy? But if he hasn't given us the key components, what do you suggest it should even be? So I think those are part of the things we'll even explore moving forward here today on the program. So very interesting, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right into this and take you through the dailies here this morning. I will start with Leadership newspaper, again talking about results of what we are currently practicing at the moment. 3 months after, Leadership reports here that hardship lingers as states defend 180 billion naira palliatives, which is a short-term measure anyway. So, residents lament poor measures by state governments. We only got 14 cups of rice, few packs of noodles, pastas ascribed to beneficiaries. Manufacturing, MSME sector yet to access 275 billion naira loan facilities. So, the bottlenecks, and you know, it won't stave off hunger, those bottlenecks. And if people are saying, oh, if this is the embodiment of the justification of these palliatives by state governments, I wonder. Because you know what they say about a hungry man, you know he'll be an angry man. And they're angry, you know not what they can do when they're angry. You don't want an aggregation of angry people. It might be difficult for people or for authorities to handle all of those. But an interesting story, I tell you, because here we've always highlighted or harped on the importance of those states ensuring that people, they see the transparency in the utilization of these palliatives. So if they are defending it, maybe the Daily might have highlighted where you can see some sort of template or publication or how they're going about this so that you can make up your mind for yourself depending on what state that you are in. So, yeah, it'd be good to get your voices heard. If they're defending it, let us know if this is what you think about all of this. Okay, so Kano Agog as Governor Yusuf Commission's projects. Well, Kano is in spotlight. You know that the court, they sacked the sitting governor. Then they're taking it upstairs. And then the warning by the Commissioner of Police for troublemakers to look elsewhere. How will that sit on them? So that's why keeping tabs on that state to see what happens moving forward. Well, that is Leadership here today.
The front page of Daily Trust is echoing what we began with this morning. Western democracy not working for Africa. That's according to former President Obasanjo. Nigerians gradually losing faith, says Atiku. No trust between leaders and followers. Fayemi. Politicians' attitude, the problem. That's ascribed to Lamido. Ex-president lacks moral ground to pontificate on democracy, as ascribed to Sislak. That story is on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And, you know, Chamberlain, when you were saying, you know, we wait, you know, for how this is going to go. Remember what Dr. Samademi told us about African leadership, that it's always from top down. So, again, with you, I join you in wondering. And you also highlighted the fact that the National Assembly is tinkering with the idea of giving the royal fathers, the monarchs, the traditional rulers, some constitutional responsibility. Is that going to be an integration of Afro-democracy? Is that how it worked during the First Republic? Anyway, as you said, Chamberlain, I join you in waiting. Look at below the picture on the front page. Reps go after 83 MDAs over 184 billion naira COVID-19 fund mismanagement. Mismanagement is in parentheses. Find out what that is about. Goes, you know, back to what you raised in the first paper you looked at, Chamberlain, talking about how much state governments have collected and how very little the people are feeling. Right under the nameplate, Sanwo-Olu under fire over 180 million naira vegetables, Tinubu's portrait. 180 million naira vegetables. we're throwing a party for Lagos. There's 20 million people in Lagos. So anyway, the details you find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Right beside that one, 110 million Nigerian children at risk of climate change. Oh dear. So many issues to look at this morning, but then there is this last one. Subsidy removal. FJ records over 1 trillion naira monthly revenue inflow. Inflow. Yeah. 1 trillion naira monthly revenue inflow. So what's happening to the money? Anyway, maybe page 20 will give you the details. That's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Yeah, on to Vanguard next. Hold on. Let me just make it The Guardian, guys. Sorry about that. The Guardian newspaper. Government considers new MPC members as uncertainty rocks economy. So you see food inflation 31.5%, inflation rate 27.33%, exchange rate, black market, 1,130 naira to the dollar, and interest rate 18.75%. So I know much as they try to that you turn your eye away from the quote black market and go to the will they accept that there's still black market today? They're trying to unify the window so that, or even if it's not, you don't be giving prominence to the black market, but it's people's reality, I reckon. So maybe not, who knows? But it says government is considering new MPC members as uncertainty rocks the market, and the MPC in a hold anyway, so leaving many wondering what is going on with this at this time. And then what we highlighted in the opening sequence, why democracy is not working for Africa by Obasanjo, certainly will be an interesting read. So because at the end of the day now, the political actors have got to look themselves in the mirror. Probably we as a country have got to also ask ourselves those very, very stern questions as to whether or not this is what we want. If it says a few people are the ones benefiting from it, then we continue that way. So if you disagree or agree, we'd love to hear from you. Yes, they also talk about FG earning a trillion naira monthly from subsidy removal, says Minister. So that's why that amount is coming through. And so if the focus should not just be about what government is earning. So if they're earning that, they're supposed to ultimately ensure that the lives of the people, if not commensurate to what they're earning, are a lot better than what they met. That's the essence of them coming into place anyways. Tax on property, and of course ensure that it is better, but at the federal and state levels. I should add that one too. Yeah, so that is it with The Guardian today.
Nigerian News Direct this morning is staying in Lagos for its lead story. Nigerian News Direct leads with this one. Lagos government replies Doherty, justifies expenditure on Blue Line vehicle purchases others. It would be shocking if it didn't happen, but hey. Argues Sanwo-Olu completed Blue Line despite paucity of funds. Paucity of funds in Lagos? Says 2.1 billion naira vehicles approved for COS office, not for personal use, but for MDAs. Well, too many questions being raised here, so why is it in the Chief of Staff's office? But hey, liquid fragrance purchase intended to cover 1 year period, other offices. And church renovation approved to preserve history, pay compensation for demolition. Well, the details of that you'll find on page 21, and we'll probably be able to get some perspectives on that this morning. Right above the nameplate, among other stories, flooding displaces 650,000 Nigerian children in 8 years. Again, we call the state governments exactly what is happening. Exactly what is happening. That's the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
A new Telegraph is next. Insecurity. Reps demand extra security for schools. Soldier 5 security operatives wounded in Yobe governor convoy's attack, ascribed to defense headquarters, says Buni not affected. Terrorist activities in Sahel threaten regional stability. This is coming from federal government, so imagine that they'll be strategizing to ensure that this is not the case. And then above that lead stories, Edun CBN Ministry working on comprehensive forex market reform. But I know they say tick 6 o'clock, what you have to do, fill in the gaps. And then at the bottom strip, Senate chides FMBN for generating 59.2 billion naira and spending 58.44 billion naira. Can you beat that? And then it says FG working to tackle housing deficit. So this is the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, where there are several people in this country about this. You could get the sense that you do not think that it's achieving purpose or making as much impact as it should with mortgage, because you know the pressure that people face, why they always seem to want to amass so much money to do so many things, because it's a cash economy. You can't go get facilities, vehicle, property, or where's the credit line? How do you do that? It doesn't exist. Well, stand corrected, but I like to hear contrary if they think it does. So how is it that they generate 59 billion? You spend almost everything. And then I think they were talking about the laws. If you're fully funded, are they supposed to spend everything? How come that's the case here now? So many things just happening that makes you shudder. And then just right beside that, election petitions. Nigerian judiciary, now cash and carry, ascribed to Atiku. PDP Atiku making libelous allegation against Tinubu. Presidency alleges. Appeal court upholds Benue Governor Alia's election, dismisses Uba PDP's appeal. So, if he's saying his cash and carry, I know that the last time out he was talking about his belief, unavowed confidence in the judiciary. What changed? That's New Telegraph today.
This Nigeria newspaper is again talking about ministries, departments, and agencies. Senate chides MDAs for running accounts like private properties. Stories on page 4, berates Agricultural Insurance Corporation over inconsistent financial records. No receipts to back up expenditure claims. I'm very sure, dear Senate, that if you look through the Auditor General's report since 2015, this second rider is replete, or rather the reports are replete with this particular statement. No receipts to back up expenditure claims. The question is, what are we doing about those reports from the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate? All of that work shouldn't go to, if we want to block leakages, isn't this where we start from? Senate chides NDAs for running accounts like private properties, and guess what? It's December. By the time the budget is passed, these MDAs, they are still likely to get their allocations. Yes or no? Anyway, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. The story you'll find details of on page 4. At the bottom of the page, FG to address global performance gap. VP Shetima sets up committee, says Nigeria's future linked to HCD. Find the details of that on page 5. Stop leaving charms in my court. Lagos judge warns. Stories on page 11. Well, I don't even know what to make of that one, but for the judge to notice, are the charms working? Well, that's this Nigeria newspaper this morning, and that's where we end a look at some of the dailies today. We're back right after now to dig into the issues. Just stay with us.
Yaga Africa and its partners in election management gather for this roundtable with the theme Unpacking Nigeria's 2023 general elections and prospects for electoral reforms. The stakeholders list some of the key reforms imperative for an improved INEC.
One of the recommendations is to review the appointment process of commissioners and resident electoral commissioners into INEC. In fact, one of the proposals is that the president should not appoint resident electoral commissioners. That INEC, when properly constituted individuals of impeccable character and competence and capacity, that the commission should appoint its own resident, we call them resident electoral commissioners, directors of elections, that should manage elections.
Another pressing issue highlighted is the mode of transmission of election results.
Well, basically, ours is to review issues that has happened during the past election, and to look at what can we be able to do to enforce those laws. So from what has happened the last time is to be able to look at INEC guidelines to turn them into law, because the difference between guidelines and the law is that the guideline is what someone sit down and feel that this is the guideline. But when the guideline is now a law, it becomes that it must be mandatory to do this, that you don't have any option. So we're going to review INEC guidelines. We're going to review all these issues that Nigerians have problems with. During amendment, we'll now make them to be a law, that it shall be. So for once it's now a law, it's no longer a guideline. Nobody will be able to change it at a dying minute. So these are issues that collectively we're all going to look at.
The stakeholders also admonished INEC to ensure that its guidelines are followed strictly in the conduct of the upcoming off-cycle governorship elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa states. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
I think for us, civil society, those
As you've seen there, Senator Alli, who is the chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, joins us here in the studios this morning. Good morning, Senator. Thank you for coming today.
Good morning.
Well, we certainly are in a very interesting time. I mean, it's always interesting after elections, anytime after elections. So no matter what kind of amendments we've done previously, we always end up asking ourselves questions. So, but wait a minute, before you even delve deeper, why do you think that's the case, though? Why do we always have that?
Well, I must say this. There can be perfect legislation. After every legislation, as soon as you put it to practice, you see gaps, especially when the power that's given to the judiciary is to interpret these laws. And they were not part of it while you were drafting it. It's like the judiciary will now read your mind and take a decision. Whether that is the mind of the drafters, whether it's not. That's the law.
That suggests that they seem to be getting it wrong in some areas.
No, I've not said so.
What are you suggesting then?
What I'm saying is that for every law, there will be, and let me quickly say this, we must praise the Ninth Assembly under Senator Alli for coming out bold, passing that Electoral Act. It's a fundamental change in our electoral system. There's no doubt about it. And whatever we say, 2023 elections has been an improvement. It was an improvement on previous ones. And when we go to other climes where you say things are getting better, we still have, there are errors there as well.
So what to you would you say is the improvement?
The improvement, one, reverse machine. The powers of election in the electoral process has now been taken more to the people. We haven't gotten there, but it's better. Beaver's machine is like a game changer, unlike the card reader. Card reader, when it does not work, you use incident forms, and we knew what people use that for. But as soon as you bypass the card reader, Beavers, this time around, the election is null and void.
But Senator, you know, it has several people who will tell you that is not the experience that's not the way they're seeing this, because right now we had reports for this last election of people who were snatching the beavers machines. We had reports of where beavers machine was bypassed for this last election. So we had reports.
If it was bypassed, as soon as you get to court, as soon as you get it, to be nullified. And even if you never get to court, if you are able to bring it up to the collation officer, whether at whatever level, whether at local government or the state collation centers, then,
yeah.
And when you'll be able to see that election would have been declared null and void for that particular polling unit.
But the
and what we see is, what we see is, we beam a searchlight, like for example, there are about 100 polling units, and we see where the problematic areas or where the issues are just about 5 or 10 out of 100. People will be looking at that, and by the time we get to court, the court will now say there's substantial compliance. And if you have elections in 95 out of 100.
But Senator, you know, when you speak about the beavers machine as being some of the improvements, the reason why I say
it's a game changer, as far as we are concerned.
Yeah, but you know, for those who actually were upbeat about the last general elections, from what we gathered, what we spoke to them, you could disagree or not, is that they didn't see the beavers machine as mutually exclusive. They thought the beavers machine and the IREV, uploading those results on IREV so they can see that. So when it came to the point of the IREV, people never made reference to the beavers machine because they thought, well, what am I doing with beavers machine? If you can't upload for us to see that transparency. So when that was not being done, all of the confidence, all of this talk about being a game changer nosedived.
That's one of the things that we're going to do moving forward. Under the current law, it's not mandatory for INEC to upload.
It's not mandatory?
It's not mandatory. That's what the courts have said. Isn't that the law?
Whoa. I thought you were going to say it will be mandatory for INEC
under the current one, it is not.
No, that's because...
But as we are going forward,
yeah,
it's going to be mandatory. That's one of the things that we're going to do.
To make it mandatory for them to upload?
Yes.
What would the components of that amendment be?
Well, several things. Particularly
on this uploading.
It's just to ask INEC to make sure that we improve on our technology and ensure that everything is there. One other thing that we also must look at is the fact that, you know, after the first elections, INEC had to go back, say they wanted to reconfigure the machines for gubernatorial elections.
Yes.
We are looking at the situation, asking INEC to improve on it to ensure that the machine can store data. And 2, 3, 4 elections, so that whenever you want to retrieve, you can easily get that. You may not have to go and reconfigure, and by the time you get to court, there won't be anything there again, like we had in the last elections. You know, there was a court case where a decision was taken that INEC had the powers to go and reconfigure.
So, is the Senate going to leverage or invite a lot of ICT experts? Because several people, when that amendment was done and the first results came through, several people thought some of these are not even encrypted, that they could even be hacked into. So they thought there are levels of encryption that INEC can actually embark upon. So will the Senate be considering that as well?
The joint committee, because we're working together, joint committee on the electoral matters of the House and the Senate, we are trying to, you know, that's the job of INEC to do. We will encourage them to ensure that it is done. And that's why what we're going to do this time around, and that's why we have started early, so that it won't be a station where elections or primaries are about commencing when we pass the law. It won't be in a hurry. I want to assure you, by the grace of God, before the next year, we must have had something in place for Nigerians to see. And in doing that, we are going to ensure that we involve all stakeholders.
So that means that many of the guidelines that INEC had, the Senate, the National Assembly will now adopt some of those guidelines and make them law.
INEC will still have powers to make guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, because
you can't put everything here.
Because part of those guidelines was uploading the results on IREV, which many people looked up to when they said they were going to do that. It never happened.
But INEC also said there were about 2,000 attempts at hacking the system. That's also a possibility. You just alluded to that while you are talking now.
No, that as in being encrypted, but they didn't succeed.
They didn't succeed. Maybe they didn't succeed. Maybe that was why INEC saw, and they refused to upload real time. It wasn't that the results were not uploaded.
Well, INEC didn't say so. For the presidential, it was not. For the governorship, they saw some things. So they thought that that's why many people
for the National Assembly elections, it was uploaded.
Yeah, but for the presidential, it was presidential.
Some of it not real time. Yeah. Presidential, it was not. So but we're going to look at that.
So would you not make it real time?
Yes.
Which is the operational
that's what we're trying to do now.
Across board.
Yes, across all board.
So if the Senate goes ahead with that particular one, is it such that I know that there'll be robust debates both on the Senate and National Assembly, and
even the people.
The people as well.
To get people involved and by 28th of this month, we're having a town hall in Abuja here, inviting citizens to come and lay out their mind on the experience in the last elections. Then we'll go along. And we also have to go to all the zones. We're not just going to stay in Abuja here. We're going to all the zones in Nigeria. Maybe once, twice, depending on how we're able to go about it.
Because for those who will be skeptical about, one thing to have public hearing, another thing to factor in some of the key observations of this public hearing into the amendment, such that you could always have people say, okay.
We in the 10th Senate are interested in ensuring that we represent the people well. If you go, we had a retreat in Lagos just last week. We have had our positions. We are going to go to that place and let people know these are the areas where you can touch. Not that you cannot speak on other places, but there are some critical areas where we say we have realized, in view of the recent decisions of the courts, that there are issues. Then those are places that we'll look at. And when people come and if we find out that that's the aggregate opinion of Nigerians, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, because part of the expectation of the people, they want to see that at every level of
there's some transparency.
This election, transparency.
And then
beavers and the IRF must correspond. Because now, these days, all sorts of things happen with the beavers, with the accredited number.
But in my own elections, beavers and IRF corresponded. There was no problem. When we got to court, we were able to compare the two. But that was taken to court.
I know you know that there are several other cases.
There will be, no doubt about it.
It did not correspond.
There may be.
Where IRF was never even a factor in some of those areas. So these are the things that you'd expect that to happen. But Senator, when you started out and you said, we can't have a perfect election.
Perfect legislation.
Perfect legislation. Wait, if you don't have perfect legislation, does that then mean that you can have a perfect election without a perfect legislation?
No. Perfect is relative. Even when we go to US, all these places, we still have issues with the elections. What is most important is to ensure that the yearnings of the people, their expectations are met. And when we say meeting the expectations of the people, you can't meet it 100%. It won't be 100% of the people that will take. But as soon as you're able to get 90, there'll be less. But if you don't get it right, then that's when you get to hear so many things.
One of the key things that was observed for that election is that the Electoral Act says where, INEC also say that time and again, where there is violence, those elections will not count. But we know how this can be easily manipulated. So we thought, but this is basic, such that all I need to do as a candidate, just cause violence in my opponent's place, and it will be cancelled. So I thought they would have seen these things as easy, or was it deliberate?
It's not. It's not as easy as you're saying it.
Oh.
We also have the involvement of security agencies. Don't just go to a place and disrupt elections. It's not easy on election days to disrupt elections. As soon as you finish, before you move from steps, from 100 meters thereabout, you get to see some security agencies. They're all over. Except in very remote places, like somebody, one of the resource persons at the last retreat said, he had to drive about over an hour into the bush even in between the polling units and there are no, it's all inside the bush. So anything could have happened. But these are isolated cases, which as we go along, will get such even right.
So now,
because in such places, if it's a situation where you have security agencies that are polling units, however remote, and as soon as elections are over, the thing is transmitted through the beavers, everything is uploaded. Whatever you do with your ballot papers don't have any effect.
So this amendment, we expect to see that because the Electoral Act says, I think in the case where if officials of the commission come very late, and we know that there's a time limit for you to start the election and end. So if they appear at the venue very late,
it can be shifted to the next day.
That is the So are we going to have the same principle that if there's violence in some area, we have to make sure the election holds, however possible?
Let's listen to our people, the Nigerians. Next time we go around, we'll be able to...
Well, that's one thing that we can consider.
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any consideration for security? Because several people always seem to say security, even INEC officials.
There can't be security. There can't be elections without security.
No. In terms of if they are found to be doing the wrong things, should there be specific mention? Because the last elections where they say, look, even the person that had pre-failed election results was an official of the commission. So those kind of things happening.
You know, the last Senate passed the Electoral Offences Commission bill, and it was sent to the House for concurrence. But because the time was late, we are trying to consider it. But let me be honest with you. Some people are believing that we're having too many commissions. You have that as a commission again. But then what's the job of the police? Why don't you strengthen the police and ensure that they're able to tackle such? Because that's an additional commission. That's the thinking of some people.
Senator, it's not the same Senate, the same National Assembly, that the question about police reforms, even though they came up with the Police Act updated on it, look at where we still are. People keep talking about having a police that reflects the will, impression, and expectation of the people. You can call it multi-layer policing, for instance. Why can't that be a huge consideration?
There's nothing wrong in that. It's part of what we're going to consider. But the truth is, some people believe we should have that commission. Some feel, no, let's strengthen the police to ensure that that is done.
My colleagues went to observe elections in West Africa here, Liberia, and they had about... Okay, you were there, so fantastic. So you saw the 19 million registered voters, you saw the attitude of the politicians,
yes,
and you saw how they don't have as much amendments as we have had, but the elections, I mean, from what you saw, if we had that kind of atmosphere here, you prefer, you don't mind that?
I don't. Let me quickly say this. Look at the population of their country compared to Nigeria. That is one. Two, I must be honest with you, they are patriotic. So a situation where after voting, people will just go home, and you then begin to ask him, where are you going? He said, I voted, I'm going to my house. Are you not going to wait and see the thing counted? He said, my agent is there. Are you sure he's not going to be compromised? He said, no problem, I have confidence in him. But here in Nigeria, if you don't look well, your agent is a problem. So these are our culture. These are things that some of the things that we want to consider.
How? With the Electoral Act?
Yes, Electoral Act and talking to the people.
So that means is that to say they're considering legislating the people's action and attitude?
You cannot do that. But we need to do a lot of, one, letting the government see that we need a different orientation. Also, let me quickly say this about Liberia. That's their first election that the country organized by itself. And when we got there, colleague will tell you, one of the persons who came to address us is the army spokesperson. He said, They are tired of war. They do not want any problem again. It's like they are ready that they want their country to move forward. But I think our experience of the last civil war here, a lot of people who are just coming up do not know about it.
We don't seem to have been taught any lesson.
At all.
Maybe they didn't teach the Civil War lessons in schools. We didn't take active steps.
History is not being taught in school again. These are the kind of problems that we have. But over there, they felt, in fact, one of them said, we don't want Nigerians to come and conduct our affairs. It means that they knew that they were being, it's like being spoon-fed. There are things that are being done for them. But this time around, this is the first election they're organizing on their own. So they sought assistance, technical, all from several, from Nigeria, ECOWAS, the EU. But then, they are organizing it by themselves.
Well, Senator, you know, when you look at the poverty figures in the country, you would have thought we should be tired of all of this data. World Poverty Clock indicating that Nigeria, 71 million people, extremely poor, and the data from Bureau of Statistics indicating that 133 million thereabouts, multidimensionally poor. And the former president, the clock there, you can see, former president, only this morning when we were referencing and talking about democracy, a Western-style democracy not working. And some will say, well,
I love when I
this Electoral Act matter might be one of the problems that we're having. Politicians seem to be running riot. Why did you laugh when you heard it?
One, I was surprised that Baba could say that.
Why?
We're in this country, we had the election in do or die. You know the same person? That's not why I'm here. But the truth is this, let me go back. Our poverty level is a big problem.
You're looking at the messenger, not the message.
Yes, they are both. You look at both, but you laugh when you hear the messenger, when you look at the messenger.
Are you saying he doesn't have a point?
Well, I wouldn't say so. That's what I'm saying.
Would you say our democracy is working?
There has been some improvement, no doubt about it.
But from the figures there, are you happy with those figures?
Democracy, economy, they're interrelated, but we look at them differently. And let me explain this. Poverty level in this country is very high. And that accounts for some of the problems, some of the electoral problems that you will have. Because you talk about vote buying. If they decide that people should go and vote to there, and somebody decides that, like one of the research persons came, he said he got to a polling unit and he saw the polling officers, nobody goes there, and there were a lot of people around. What's happening? Then we are expecting him. And everybody was looking towards one direction. He now felt, who is it? So he's a stranger. This one doesn't know what he's talking. So after some time, somebody came, did what he wanted to do, and people started going on the queue. Is that bad?
Let me bring in Ayo.
Senator, let me quickly take you back to the issue of reforms. And you also, of course, mentioned that you had a retreat over the weekend in Lagos. What are some of the highlights of that meeting that you had? If you can just quickly give us that.
We looked at the timing for elections and election petitions. We look at a lot of administrative issues that may not require legislation, but under the purview of INEC. No, yeah, anything again. Under the purview of INEC, in terms of legislation about election petitions, what we think is that all pre-election matters should end before the election. A situation where somebody would have won an election and the pre-election matter would get to the Supreme Court and you now say is the wrong person who is there, and that person will leave. One, it's certainly going to affect the finances of our country and also the morale of the people. We're also looking at a situation where election petitions are concluded before swearing in. We are thinking of abridging the time within which to file and conclude election petitions, so that somebody will not be sworn in, and that's what led us into having these off-cycle elections. What led us into having these off-cycle elections? There wouldn't have been any need for it if the person, we are able to conclude election petitions before the swearing in of the inauguration of the assembly as maybe. That is one. We also considered the movement to all the zones in Nigeria. We get to know the feelings of Nigerians about our legislation and what they hope to get from the legislation. We are looking at deployment of technology, one of which I've just discussed now. Like improvement on the technology, because a lot of Nigerians were disappointed when the issue of the IRF didn't work. But like we have just said now, it is not the law as it is. But going forward, we try to ensure that INEC does something about that, and also improve on the BVAS retaining some data in its memory.
For some of those issues you have already discussed, Senator, my apologies, some of those issues you have actually quite significantly dealt with this morning. But, going back to a number of things that have happened in recent times and that Chamberlain has raised with you, how do we ensure that that doesn't happen again? You've talked about the fact that pre-election matters and even post-election matters should be addressed squarely before the fellow is sworn in. You may want to tell us how you intend to go about that one. But look at what happened in Plateau State and in Kano State. In Plateau State, we understand that the candidate was not duly sponsored. In Kano, we understand that the governorship candidate was not, a member of that political party. And when we had this discussion yesterday, one of the questions that I was asking, that we were asking our guest was, isn't this something that should be under the purview of INEC? Doesn't INEC have the authority to disqualify a candidate because the candidate wasn't duly represented or is not a due member of a political party? One of the guests that we had said that in Kano State that they took the register of members of a political party, the political party of the governor, and they looked at it and they didn't find his name there within the time. Isn't that something INEC should have seen before we go into the elections? So what are those issues? How do you think that these kind of issues can be addressed?
One, there is a provision in the law that parties must submit their register of members 30 days before their primaries. They did. But we all know that most of these third four parties, where people just couldn't get tickets in the major parties and decided to go there. So at the courts, their names are not on the register. One of the things that we may consider is that if parties don't submit, there should be some penalty for them, for the party itself, because very many of the parties did not. Like INEC complained recently that there was a particular political party made them, one of the off-cycle elections, made INEC to reprint ballot papers again after the judgment of the court. And when parties were expected to send names of agents, this party could not send name of a single agent to the local government collation centers. What do you say about that? And that's why one of the things that we believe is that we should ensure that these issues are concluded before a particular time. One, pre-election matters must be concluded before we get to the election itself. Secondly, we're also considering a situation where you see the election petitions for National Assembly and state assemblies end at the Court of Appeal. Whereas pre-election matters get up to Supreme Court. There must be a situation where we think of that. We also see gubernatorial petitions get up to Supreme Court. We are thinking of why that, because there could be problems in our law, like what has happened in Plateau now. If the Supreme Court decides otherwise, then somebody would have benefited, some other people would have suffered. So these issues are things that we tried to consider.
All right, Senator.
I'm believing that after talking to Nigeria, we are going to move forward.
Okay.
One of the things is also that we are going to abridge the time within which to file and conclude petitions. When we are having some 2 years, we said, and we reduced it to 1 year, say, it's not possible. Now we are doing it within 80 days, within 180 days. In some other countries, within 14 days, 21 days, election petitions are concluded.
Okay. Well, Senator, just one last...
If INEC is able to upload all the results, and you have everything. And somebody also suggested at the retreat, one of our resource persons, that as soon as elections are concluded, within 14 days, INEC must supply all the tribunals, all the election results. So it's where you have to go to INEC, you need this, it will not be there.
Okay.
You can easily have access to it at the courts, at the tribunals, and there won't be any problem.
Talking about INEC, Senator.
These are some of the things that we did.
Talking about INEC, if you can hear me.
But we're still going to go and talk to Nigerians.
Yeah.
Air their feelings. What they feel.
We'll wait for how that process is going to go, Senator. But talking about INEC, there are concerns. Chamberlain raised one of those issues about election. Was it you that even raised it about election petitions tribunal or election petitions commission? So the issues have occurred over the years of people asking whether or not INEC is
Electoral Offenses Commission.
Yes, whether INEC is over-bloated. Do you think INEC is over-bloated? Do you think INEC needs to be, broken down? Is that something that you are also considering?
Yes, majority of Nigerians believe INEC should be unbundled. Even INEC believes so itself. It has been burdened with so many things. And people are considering having political parties, legislation and management, some electoral offenses bill. But I also believe that another person suggested the limitation commission. I said, no, that is getting too much. My opinion anyway, because the issue of limitation of constituencies could be done by INEC, National Population Commission, and the National Boundary Commission. We don't need to have a commission, another commission for that. And that's why I said, if you have to have commission for everything, we have too many commissions in Nigeria.
What will the Senate or the National Assembly do? Or what do you think should be done about internal democracy in political parties?
Well, it depends on the way you look at it. Majority of people in the Progressive Party believe that their tradition is that leadership will nominate the best candidate to them. In the Conservative Party, they believe that you must go through some other process. And ever since, over the years, somebody who has been a beneficiary of what we call selection, some other people will refer to it as imposition. I don't agree. It's not imposition. Because it's the leaders of the party that have been relating with these people. And they know the fact that somebody comes to them and has a lot of money and can get his way through primaries does not mean that he's going to be the best candidate for the party. The party leadership must always be involved. That's my belief.
In what way?
They know, and leadership is at different levels. At the ward, local, state. A situation where, for example, somebody just comes around, that being part of what they have been doing before, and came in with a lot of money, went into the primaries, was able to pay his way through, gets into office, and decided not to do the bidding of the populace. It's the party's image that will be affected, not just that person. That's the reason given by those. And those who believe that we must strengthen what we need to do about internal democracy. Like the Supreme Court said, whatever is happening in a party is an internal matter for them. What we only need to do is to ensure that they do things right within their system.
Speaking about doing things right, Senator, just one more thing before we go. As a senator representing your constituency, who are looking up to you to ensure that you not only represent them, but ensure that right things are done, ensure there's transparency in the system. Now you're talking about electoral reforms because you seem to at least agree with the train of thought that we should do the right things in this country. So personally, as a senator, what do you think of the confirmation of some of those members, the resident electoral commissioners who are affiliated to political parties?
Well, let me say this. What do you term affiliation? If I'm a member of a political party, up until June this year, and I decided I'm not playing politics again, I resigned from membership of that party. And I decided I want to go alone. Does that make me a member of the party today?
What does
That's
going
what.
alone know?
What we should do, and what one of the things that we consider that are retreat, is that nomination of rec and things, people are believing that should not be left to the president alone. That we should have it should be advertised. The national a body like the National Judicial Council will collate, sieve, and make recommendations of about 3 people or more to the president. After which such will now be sent to the Senate. Some people believe that immediately after Judicial Council, it must be sent to the Senate. The Senate to pick one out of the 3.
Is it because
we are believing that it should not just be people, the president alone, nominating. That's the thinking of most Nigerians today.
Even that the system is, there's supposed to be checks and balance. Is it that the Senate could not say no?
No, that's
to some
not
of those
it.
names or to
That's
the president?
Okay, let me give you an example. The last one that was done were 10 resident electoral commissioners. If you are having complaints, maybe only 2.
No, Mr. Fadana was here. He said about 4 of them are attached to political parties.
That cannot be established. Even the civil society organizations complained about 2. And those ones claimed that there were no more parties. There were one is not a card-carrying member of any party, cannot be seen to be a card-carrying member. They have a sympathy.
When did that one stop being a member of a political party?
It was never. It cannot. Do you know whether I'm a member of a court party now? I'm a member of APC. And you know Nigerians.
But there was one that was clearly seen as a member of APC.
Haven't been, he has held positions before. He held positions, let's get it, right from the civil service up to a particular point. If you are very good, you became a permanent secretary, head of service, and people believe you are good, must it be politicians that, are we all the appointees that we have today, are they all politicians?
Is he the only one that can do the job?
He's not.
He was seen clearly being welcomed to the political party. He's seen wearing the attire of the political party, signaling his unalloyed commitment to the political party.
When he now got to the committee and said, no, I have ceased to be a member of a political party.
When did he cease? Do you know?
He said it was more than 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago.
So the Senate took his word for it. No way to check and confirm.
Well, if there's anything...
Is that the way they screen?
No.
Why did they refer it to the committee? Why committee of a whole?
Well, that was the thinking of the committee at that time. Such things like that now will now go to the committee because at that time committees have not been...
No, but there's precedent.
Committees have not...
usually goes to the committee.
Committees have not been inaugurated.
So why the rush?
Committees have not been... And not just that INEC.
But you know it came across as though they were rushed.
Well, that's the thinking. You may think so.
Do you think so?
I don't think so. Like there are other nominees that have been...
so they couldn't wait for the committee to be appointed, to be put in place?
Other nominees that have been sent by the president were also screened by the committee of the whole for other positions.
So do you
not
care
just
does it matter what the people think of these nominations?
Does. Because people have put us there.
But you don't seem to agree with it because many of them think, no, it doesn't come across to them as these people can be the umpire, they can be objective.
We are.
They suddenly think that if I'm seeing being in a place for a long time...
You mentioned somebody now. I said...
One was being a commissioner, the other one was being a member, so... And they're supposed to be
working from the civil service, from the private sector. Somebody who has...
So you don't think anything's wrong with that then?
Well, like I've just told you before now, we can't get it all right. if you're having 10 people and people are complaining about 1 or 2, you can't get it right all the time.
So why can't you just, okay, if they're complaining of this 1 or 2, take these 2 out, so it was seen to be free and fair to people?
If my committee says no, it was the chair of the Senate, don't worry. Some other time, as we go forward, now that when they come before the committee, maybe we'll look at it.
So even if these people did it, the Senate did it, and they noticed,
wait a minute.
Yeah, so even if the Senate did it, and they noticed that, wait a minute, if people are complaining about this, what's the big deal? They're not the only ones that can, okay, you know what? In order for us to be seen to be objective, let's drop these 2, bring other 2.
Going forward, we'll look at that.
No, why go for, why not correct this one and say, okay, look, if they feel they can't be objective, it's about you seeing to be objective. So if that is impaired, you can't say you are. It's the people that will say you are, because people will see you doing what you're doing.
Okay, well, we have not had anything from people after the screening.
I thought you said people said it was 1 or 2.
Before the screening, they came. They sent letters.
So what did you do about those 1 or 2?
They came, they were screened, it was on air.
Senator Alli, Chairman, Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We're back in a moment. Stay on with us.
The Abuja division of the Appeal Court is filled with political party members from Plateau State, lawyers and journalists who have turned out for the judgment in the appeals filed by the All Progressives Congress and its candidate, Mr. Nentawe Goshwe, against the election of Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State. This is coming about a week after the 3-member panel reserved its judgment in the appeals brought before it on October 10, 2023 by the appellants who are challenging the victory of Governor Mutfwang on the ground that the latter was not qualified to have contested the March 18, 2023 election because he was not validly sponsored and nominated by his political party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. An election tribunal sitting in Plateau State had struck out the petitions of the appellants on the grounds that the issue of lack of structure by the PDP in Plateau State and whether Governor Mutfwang was sponsored by his party or not were internal party affairs and that they were also pre-election matters. However, the Court of Appeal on resumption set aside the judgment of the tribunal, describing it as highly incompetent. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice Elfreda Williams Dawodo noted that under Section 134C of the Electoral Act and Section 177 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it is the sole right of the political party to sponsor its candidate, having met the necessary requirements to do so. The panel held that the PDP violated a court order that a valid Congress be conducted in the 17 local government areas of Plateau State by conducting Congress in only 5 local government areas of the state, and as such is a nullity. While evoking Section 136 of the Electoral Act, the court ordered INEC to retrieve the certificate of return issued to Governor Mutfwang and issue a fresh one to the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Mr. Nentawe Goshwe. Agreeing with the judgment, Justice Okon Abang said, unless the PDP resolves its issues in Plateau State, it will always suffer self-inflicted misfortune.
We are very, very happy with the judgment. We listened to it with rapt attention. It covered so many areas. We advise members of the public to please read the judgment first before some people begin to have negative views of it.
But the counsel to PDP feels differently.
Today in the judgment, we did not hear anything about nomination. Everything that was said in this court today was about sponsorship. And of course, we know that when you mention sponsorship, it could be pre-election or post-election. But when you talk about nomination, the courts do not have any jurisdiction to entertain it as a post-election matter.
While the appellants savour their victory, this judgment may not be the end of the road for Governor Caleb Mutfwang as he can appeal to the Supreme Court. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. We're turning our attention to Plateau State in terms of the judiciary, the court cases that have come through. So we've got two gentlemen joining us. This morning we've got Mr. Steve Abba, who is a former member, Judicial Service Commission for Plateau State. He's a former second vice president of the NBA and the former vice chair, Speedel. He's here in the studios. Good morning. Thank you for coming on. We also do have Honorable Dachun Bagos, who's a former member, National Security and Intelligence Committee. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program as well, Mr. Bagos. Let me start with you, Mr. Bagos, on this matter. The case concerning the Plateau State governor, which is appealed now. I know your party clearly not happy with that, so you decided to go upstairs on that matter. We had a lawyer, a professor, who was with us yesterday, and he raised some issues about that matter, which you seem to disagree with by our conversation. He did say, well, from the look of things, the party disobeyed the court. The court wasn't satisfied that they had gone ahead and conducted the Congress, or party primary, you say it's Congress, for members in that state. He says that they used some members and not 17, as the court had expected. So could you just give us a background to what this is about?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Good morning, Nigeria and Nigerians. The Plateau issue is quite unfortunate that it's been misunderstood and interpreted in a different way entirely. The issue of Plateau State is an issue that purely is a pre-election matter and a party issue that started since 2021. And these issues were squarely dealt with. This was an issue that a member of the party took the party to court because of the Congress. And the court annulled the Congress that we should repeat our Congresses. And again, before then, at various levels of the local government ESCOs, they were in court at various levels. So when we repeated our Congress in 2021, 12 leadership, not Congress, of those local government, because in every local government you have leadership of 17 people out of 235 Congress party members who made leadership of every single ward of that local government. So 17 were in contention out of the 12. So when we repeated our Congress, the total number of delegates were over 3,500. Because of any further litigation, we excluded 204, which made 17 times 12. And 17 times 12, 204, out of 3,500, you look at the party constitution, we have already made quorum to conduct our congresses. And that was what happened. So now, the person that even contested the congresses came and congratulated the current leadership of Honorable Chris Hassan as the party chairman and other ESCOs. So now going further to say that 204 people are not part of 3,500 of Congress members, which we already have a quorum, according to the party constitution, it's very unheard. It's everywhere. That you know that once your constitution of the party has given you the go-ahead and you have made that quorum, you are squarely. And again, it will interest you, Chamberlain, that INEC monitored the congresses. INEC wrote a report. But in court, it was so surprising to now hear that the person that signed, or the INEC officials that came and signed for monitoring the congresses are not the people that signed for CTC. How can someone who signed, monitored Congress and go, is no longer in the office, an admin officer, to come and sign a CTC saying that he was the person that monitored such congresses? Those were the issues that the judges refuse to administer as our own evidence, knowing very well that we organize congresses. And the narrative that is out there again saying that it was party primaries, it is never about party primaries. It was an issue that took place in 2021. And even knowing very well that the Supreme Court this February 2023 clearly stated that INEC is the final decision in determining dispute in party matters. But on our own issue here, you find that INEC has given its report that PDP in Plateau State organized its Congress, not primaries that the professor was talking about yesterday, and talking about 12 people, 12 local government out of 17. That is not the issue. We should be talking about Congress members. We have 3,520-something Congress members. Out of the 3,520-something party Congress members, 204 did not participate because of litigation above them.
All right.
So we have so these are issues and narratives that are out there. And let me tell you something again, Chamberlain. The counsel to APC now in court, in the person of Honorable Edward Pajok, who is my predecessor in office, was the counsel to PDP when we were having these issues. When we were discussing and issues were so high, we now said, okay, what is it there? Why can't we even reorganize another? We can do congresses over congresses and we will still win. So let's go back and do another congresses. We told the National Party that dissolve the current ESCO so that we will do the congresses. The same counsel to APC now, who was our counsel and our party member, went to court, obtained an injunction against the National Party that they should not dissolve the current ESCO, that he is now the counsel of APC, saying that we did not organize, when he was the one that advised us not to redo the Congress 3 times.
All right, Mr. Bagos.
Because we have already met the requirements.
Okay, so, let's also let's hear from.
It's another issue.
Don't worry, just hang on. You get to respond a little further. Mr. Abba, you heard his perspective on this matter. Is that he thinks that is the substance of the matter here? Do you share this?
Thank you, Chamberlain. It goes without question that Honorable Bagos is partisan with respect to this matter because he's directly in the middle of it. He was, his position has been affected by the judgments of the court. It's important that we provide historical context and a factual basis to this whole Plateau State issue. I'm aware that most of the commentators are either unaware of the facts, have not read the judgments of the cases themselves, neither are they aware of what transpired. The historical background to this matter is that the whole thing arose from a dispute between 2 factions of the PDP. One led by former Governor Jonah Jang, and the other led by Jeremiah Oseni. They had issues with respect to the constitution of their party structure across all the levels on the plateau. And the faction that was loyal to General Oseni went to court to challenge the other faction led by Jang. And the court made profound pronouncements, stipulating specific steps and actions that must be taken by the PDP with respect to its structure on the plateau, right from the World Congress, World local government to the state. And they never complied.
Are you a member of the PDP?
I'm not a member of the PDP, but the judgment is in the public domain. And I've had benefit of going through the judgment. And that is the factual, that judgment has been the bane of the PDP on the plateau. Now, in 2022, there was a by-election in Plateau State when the member representing Bayelsa Jos North Federal Constituency died while in office. There was a by-election in 2022, February 2022. And a PDP candidate won. The person that came second was of the PRP. That was the person that came second in the election. It was of the PRP, Al-Khali, Muhammad Al-Khali, that is his name. And the man challenged the PDP candidate on making this one of the major grounds of his petition, that the PDP lacked the structure to sponsor a candidate on the basis of qualification.
Yeah, Mr. Abba, we appreciate you trying to give us the background to some of these matters, but yes, we're trying to factor in so much in so little time that we've got here. But this substance, I mean, this particular, predicating this on this recent matter, which also affected several other members of the PDP.
Yes.
For which he says the crux of the matter for him has to do with their conducting the Congress. You're saying that that is not the case.
So that is the point. That's the point I was making. I was giving you need to understand the background for you to understand where we are today. The Court of Appeal today has simply followed its previous decisions on the issue. In Al-Khali's case, the Court of Appeal held that PDP on the Plateau does not have a structure. Similarly, in the Plateau South constituency, state constituency, the member representing that constituency was an APC member. He died while in office. There was also a by-election in the same last year.
So is this an internal affair of the PDP?
It's not, because the issue of qualification has been made the issue of qualification of a candidate to stand for election is rooted in the Constitution. Section 177 for the governorship, Section 65, and Section 106 for the state and the National Assembly.
So him saying that INEC supervised, monitored all of that, and did affirm that they indeed complied with the processes and submitted names is immaterial.
It's not, it's one thing to claim. It's another thing to prove.
Is it a claim or a fact?
It's a claim. Because I was in court when the matter, when this trial held at the trial tribunal. The PDP...
So INEC did not play the roles that Mr. Bago said they played.
Now let me give you this, so that you need to understand the facts. You see, there's a lot of misconception with respect to this matter. Most people who comment are doing so from a very jaundiced perspective. And you need to put all the facts out there. Now, like I was saying, the order of the court was that the PDP should go and comply with the provisions of the Constitution, its own Constitution, and the Electoral Act with respect to its structure. A party does not exist in vacuum. It exists through structures. And they failed to comply. So now, they claim subsequently, in 2023, that they had conducted a Congress in 2021, whereas as at 2022, about 5 judgments of the Court of Appeal were consistent on the fact that the PDP had not comply with that order of court directly to go and hold congresses.
All right, so
that constituted what we call in law an issue estoppel.
Why do you think the trial court didn't share the same view?
Which trial court?
Tribunal.
Well, I don't know. It depends on the perspective.
The facts are out there too.
What the facts out there? The trial court hinged its decision on the fact that it was an internal party of the PDP.
Now you say it's not.
No, it's not, because the issue of course the qualification by several authorities. Notable Fire Me Against Oni has said that the issue of qualification is both pre- and post-election. The Supreme Court has settled that issue.
Mr. Bagos, what do you think of this?
Chimbolin, you say, let me even take him back to the issue of Aga and versus Al-Khali. The issue of Aga and versus Al-Khali was predetermined by the 2010 Electoral Act. The 2023 election should be judged according to the 2023 Electoral Act, which clearly says that the issue of nomination in Section 84 of the Electoral Act clearly states that it is a party matter unless you are a party man before you be able to challenge the nomination of any. So why is it that our own matter is not being looked upon with the 2023 Electoral Act as it's supposed to be? And even the issue of sponsorship in the Constitution in Section 65, which clearly says that. So why is it that we are not being judged according to the 2023 Electoral Act, but we are being looked upon as if we are still being judged according to the 2010 Electoral Act? The issue of Plateau issue, why from the tribunal down the issue of voting or whatever they might have played, why is it that our election of Plateau State is not being looked upon on those entire bases, knowing very well that every law is to maintain peace and order. But in the case of Plateau, let me still take you further, Chamberlain, that why is it that Plateau State is the only state among the 36 states that have one dedicated panel that has judged the National Assembly members, that has looked into the case of House of Assembly members and the government, one dedicated panel, while in other states, I know of my colleagues that were in different panels, in different states, at different levels. In short, someone with two cases, he has two different panels. But all of us in Plateau is just like we are being put in front of an abattoir for a very one teacher to do what they are doing. So these are issues that even in law, in terms of maintaining peace and order, the genuinity of this case should be able to be looked upon. None of the party members is contesting the issue of elections in Plateau State, but interloping into the issue of pre-election matters, which the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned out and spelled out. We have we have all references in terms of this, but these are issues that I expect my brother in the studio to genuinely look at these issues, that why our cases are not being looked according to the 2023 Electoral Act as it's been amended.
Okay, so do you consider this a pre-election matter?
Absolutely, it is. Like I said, in the case of Fayemi against Oni and Usman against Dangana, the Supreme Court has settled the question of qualification as being both a pre-election and a post-election matter. It's very clear.
All right, let's bring in
the issue of qualification is both pre and post-election. It's settled in Fayemi against Oni and Usman against Dangana. Supreme Court decisions.
Ayo, go ahead.
The issue here is to begin with the language of that is being used, in that issue, Mr. Abba. I think it was the counsel to the PDP, Mr. Mike Tiaba, who said that, look, we should pay attention to the language of the court. And the court wasn't talking about nomination. The court was talking about sponsorship. Mr. Abba, you with us in the studio in Abuja, help us understand why that is. Because if that is the contention that Mr. Bagos, Honorable Bagos is talking about, then perhaps there is a need for some more enlightenment in terms of what the differences are. If the fellow is a nominee, is a candidate, does that make it a pre-election matter or a post-election matter? If the court is talking about sponsorship, is that a pre-election matter or a post-election matter? Let's just see if we can quickly clear that.
Now, the primaries of any political party are internal parties of the matter, of the political party. The primaries, the conduct of the primaries are internal businesses of the political party. However, in reference to the governorship position specifically, the Constitution has made prescription for what will qualify a candidate to contest in that election. In Section 177C, there is no room for independent candidacy. You must belong to a political party, and that political party must sponsor you. So what that presupposes is that, first of all, you must have a political party which is recognized by law, which is proper structures in place for it to be enabled to advance a party to contest under its platform. And so to the extent that there was non-compliance with the orders of the court for the PDP to establish the structure on the Plateau, clearly it becomes a post-election issue. Because if you recall, the APC are not members of the PDP for them to bring the matter pre-election. They cannot do that as a pre-election matter because they are not members of to challenge that process. So it was the PDP, the infighting between the PDP that gave rise to this scenario that the APC has sort of cashed in on. And they only have themselves to blame.
You, Honorable Bagos, part of what the court said, Justice Okonabang was quoted as saying that unless the PDP resolved its issues in Plateau State, it will always suffer self-inflicted misfortune. What could the judge be talking about?
First of all, is that can't we look at the laws first? First of all, before you now judge any political party to be able to look at what does the law stand in terms of Electoral Act or even in terms of the Constitution, is that does that political party has its own constitution? Did the members of the party conduct themselves according to the constitution of the political party? When you now look at that, you now take it in line with the Electoral Act alongside the Constitution. And like I said earlier, we first of all met the required condition of our own Constitution by having a quorum. And when you are now looking at the issue of nomination have to do with our own party primaries. And why sponsorship?
Yeah, you already discussed all of that quite succinctly, but I'm just wondering because some of the issues that have been raised, and I think your co-panelist on this program has also mentioned the same thing, that it's because of the infighting. And there is also a possibility that if there is infighting, the people who would fight against the PDP would probably also be within the PDP. So that I'm just trying to get the perspective. First of all, is there significant infighting in Plateau State's PDP?
As of now, there is no any significant infighting because there is no member of the party that has challenged our primaries, that has challenged our repeated congresses, because the person from the other contestant, Honorable Bitrus Kazi, there is public evidence on how he even congratulated the winner during the congresses. So up till our primaries, no single contest that anybody went to court to challenge any of our primaries. None. Okay. Not until when our issue got to the tribunal after winning our cases. Okay. So if we are now from the tribunal, what they're supposed to look, if they are now looking at those cases, they're supposed to look at were we duly nominated by our own party? Were we duly sponsored by the party? Those are issues that we're supposed to look into.
So what then do you think Justice Okonabang could mean when he said that unless the PDP resolved its issues in Plateau State, it would always suffer self-inflicted misfortune?
Well, and the judge has the best knowledge of how he understood the issues according to how it was presented to him. So I would say that he is not learned, but to us, the facts presented were not adopted as evidence in the court. Because if our facts were adopted by evidence, it could have clearly been read out in the judgment as the judges read out all their judgment. If you read out the judgment of all the judges, you will not see where it talked about our evidences that we have tendered in terms of repeating our congresses. And like I said, even trying to say, from the evidence of INEC, that INEC said that they monitored, the judges went ahead and said that they were not the people that monitored, are not the people that signed for the true certified copy. So if our evidence were duly adopted and as it is, you could have seen it in the judgment.
All right. Well, Honorable, there is more on that one when we return from this break that we want to take now, because one of the questions that one will be asking is, how come the people who are supposed to be there on behalf of INEC were not there? But then, hey, we're not lawyers, we're just dealing with the issues. We're back right after now. There is more when we return.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world. Cotton Yellow labels flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Labour Party, Labour Party, Labour Party, who's your guy? Our Lumide Apata, see us we dey like beans and rice. Labour Party, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time forever, time to you, my people. Even if the road is rough, I know mine. 'Cause together we shall stand. Labour Party, who's your guy? Now Olumide Apata. See us we dey like beans and rice. 'Cause together we shall.
Thank you for staying with us. So, Honorable Bagos, just a quick one before I go back to Mr. Abba in the studio. Well, something that you said the other time when you were saying how come Plateau State has just one panel and not just two. What are you alleging? Are you alleging that there are some people, some surreptitious moves against your party in Plateau State?
Yeah, when you have a serving member boasting you will see it trending that when we go to court, they will show us who they know after we have done what we have done. So, and again, when you are now seeing that it's only Plateau State in the history of this country, that is only Plateau State that has only one panel, like an abattoir, you start wondering that why will somebody be boasting that they will show us who they know when it gets to appeal and when it gets to the Supreme Court. And now you are having that this is what has happened. So in your mindset, you start wondering, was there any plan to take Plateau out of the system of governance in terms of because we are PDP, or in terms of because some people have special interest in whatever we are doing? And people are boasting. I can tell you that before our judgments are being read, already the pronouncement is already flying out in the social media that this person has been sacked and this is the person that has now taken over. So it now gives us a reason to really further interrogate what really is happening with the case of Plateau.
Okay. Well,
we believe that we believe in as the hope of the common man. That why is our hope as who is really holding our hands in the issue of Plateau? That you have the votes of over 60,000 people just dashed because of whatsoever interpretation that someone might have failed, and professional misconduct of some of our lawyers, that you were the person that stood for this case, and now you are the person that is standing against the same case you stood for, and nobody is saying anything. That person alone needs to have been sanctioned.
Yeah, I guess that will be something for some kind of judicial interrogation. But let me ask you, Mr. Abba, you've listened to some of the things that Honorable Bagos have said. I'm pretty sure that you have a response or two, particularly from the legal angle. Start with the issue we raised earlier, when he was responding to the questions around, the process, of that election in Plateau State.
Well, like I've stated repeatedly, the Court of Appeal in the recent judgments have not reinvented the wheel. They have simply followed their previous decisions on the matter. In about 6 previous matters, ranging from early 2022, up until late October 2022, the Court of Appeal has been consistent in the position that the PDP has no structure on the plateau. That's in the case of Mohammed Al-Khali, the case of Peter Dassat, in the case of PDP against Plasiek, which went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Going by what what Honorable Bagos said, just 1 second, Mr. Abba. Going by what Mr.
Yes.
Honorable Bagos said the other time, please help us understand, for those who are wondering what this is all about. How much of a concern should it be for anyone who is not a member of a political party, much more or much less the judiciary, that there is no structure in a particular party? How significant is it?
It's very, very significant. Like I tried to explain from the onset, a party does not exist in vacuum. It exists through structures. And the courts have held that the PDP does not have the structure that establishes it as a party on the plateau.
But Honorable Bagos said they have a structure. You heard him. He said they have a structure and they have a number of people who form the
courts have held otherwise. With due respect to him, it is his views against the position of the court, the Court of Appeal. It is his views against and it is this kind of obstinance that has led them to where they are today. If the court has ruled that you do not have a structure, one would expect that they should go back and do the right thing, because the pronouncement of the court is akin to law. So if you insist, and I think that is what Justice Abang was making allusion to, that if they persist on this line, they will continue to suffer this consequence. The PRP has taken advantage of this loophole in the past. The Labour Party has taken advantage of this loophole in the past. The APC is taking advantage of this same loophole. And so if they persist in this line of thinking, they will continue to suffer this consequence. So my advice to them is that let them go back and comply with the order of the courts, because the courts do not take disobedience to their orders lightly. There will be, usually it is visited with severe consequences. And this is what they have reaped, today. So my thinking is that the PDP should do an introspection, go and comply with the order of the court, not insist that to the best of their knowledge they have complied, when the court is saying up till this moment, up to this judgment, that's judgments that have not been set aside, that you do not have a structure. I think the wisest thing to do is to go back and do the right thing, rather than keep insisting to the contrary.
So if it is a state structure, who conducts the primaries?
The primaries are conducted with people that emerge from the structure at the state levels. The delegates are drawn from across board, right from the ward, local government, and state. They're the ones that form the bulk of the delegates.
Because I see that the court says that they violated first of all, the tribunal held that a repeat Congress, that they held the repeat Congress on September 25, 2021, in compliance with the order of a Just High Court delivered by SP Gang, that's the judge.
Yes.
But the appellate court says the PDP violated that order, that the Valley Congress was to be conducted in 17 local government areas. So, which speaks to the same matter of the Congress, which Bagos is saying that they had a quorum and that was done.
And that's what I'm saying. If the Court of Appeal has been consistent since February 2022 up till date, that you don't have a valid Congress or a structure, what is the wise thing to do, sir?
But the primary election, isn't it the sole responsibility of the NEC?
And that is a distinction that must be drawn in this matter.
Which one?
You see, the PDP all along has confused the issue of qualification with that of nomination of its primaries. Nobody in all these matters is talking about the primaries of the PDP. All that the persons that have gone to court or the parties that have gone to court to contest the qualification of the PDP are saying is that, look, you cannot put something and nothing on nothing and expect it to stand. For you to present candidates or field candidates in this election, you must first have a structure in place. And that structure is absent. So no matter how beautifully, how wonderfully you conduct your primaries, it is of no avail to you, because you do not, in the first instance, qualify to be on the ballot. You are like running as if you're running as independent candidates. So irrespective of who does it, you do not have the structure, the foundation, the license to be on the ballot in the first instance.
So in other words, you're saying that some of the lawyers who say that the only issue of qualification cognizable an election tribunal are those expressly spelled out in the Constitution,
and it is,
which is 177.
Yes, and
which talks about the qualification of a governor.
Yes.
He's a member of a political party and is sponsored by that political party.
Absolutely.
So they are saying, we, the party members, the party submitted the name, INEC approved, accepted the name, but you're saying they don't have that base.
You see, Chamberlain, elections are a process. It's not just an event. It's not just the final voting. The event starts with the political parties' formation. That's why only registered political parties in Nigeria can contest elections. So that is the starting point. The PDP has been caught up in the web of its own rules and its own constitution. The constitution makes elaborate provisions on its structures, right from ward, local government to state level. Nobody has done that. They are the ones that gave themselves the constitution.
Their own constitution.
Their own constitution.
Of which their own party people say they have complied with, but the APC thinks they have not.
Not the APC. The court have said they have not.
No, but the APC want to court with it.
Of course, because why not?
So that's what I mean by that.
If the judgment is a judgment in rem, the judgment on its structure is a judgment in rem which anybody can take advantage of.
Did you say there's a precedent on this matter?
There are.
So, the case that he mentioned, where he says a lawyer who represented them on the same matter is now on the other side. Is that right, legally speaking? Is that part of the ethics?
I wouldn't speak.
You're former first vice president of the NBA, so you should know.
I wouldn't speak for Mr. Edward Pajok, whom
I'm not saying speak for him.
Yes.
It's clear what has happened. Is it right, legally speaking? Is it part of the ethics of your profession?
That what, specifically?
He says the candidate, the man, lawyer who represented them on this matter, is now on the other side representing the other party on the same matter.
It can't be the same matter. It can't be the same matter.
Let's hear from him directly. Mr. Bagos, what was it you said about the case?
Yeah, absolutely on the same matter. Because SAN Edward Pajok was our own counsel, whom even when the matter, we now said, okay, if they are still talking about the structure, let's go back to do another Congress as it were. But he went and obtained an injunction from the court stopping the National Party from dissolving the Congress of the PDP. The judgment is there. He was our counsel. So now, he is now the counsel of the APC, saying that we don't have Congress, while he was the same person that obtained judgment against the National Party not to dissolve our own Congress.
Let's get Mr. Abba to respond directly to that. Now he says he's clarified. It's the same matter.
It can't be the same matter. For you to say it's the same matter, it must be the same parties, same subject matter. Who are the parties in the other matter?
But they are the council. They are the party. They represent. He says.
I mean, who are the parties that the lawyer represented in the other matter is making reference to?
But he says it is the same matter. They were the one representing them.
Chamberlain, I'm a lawyer. My responsibility is primarily to the profession. And I'm a professional. And I'll give a quick example, if that is what he's relying on. The lead counsel for the PDP in this matter was right from 2015 up until 2019, the lead counsel for APC. Only this year, he became the lead counsel for PDP. So you say that he's representing the APC, so he cannot represent the PDP?
I'm not sure that. Okay, Mr. Bagos, is that the same context?
Absolutely not, because it's not on the same matter.
What I'm saying, who are the parties in the other matter?
But let me even tell you, let me further go ahead, Chamberlain, to stress because of time. Why our issue is not, why is it that we are not being looked upon on the 2023, the 2023 Electoral Act that was being passed by the National Assembly? Because even the structure and the Congress that they are alleging and talking about, none of the Congress members was part of our nomination as members, or even the governor, because it was the National Working Committee that set up a committee to come to Plateau State, take over charge of all activities of the PDP, organize ad hoc delegates, put in ad hoc delegates to be able to bring out candidates for various parties. That is why all over the country you will now start hearing about delegates cashing out, because there is no any Congress or party or structure member of any political party, be it the PDP, APC level, that was part of nomination of any member or even governor or president. It was the national that organized all the party nomination by putting up ad hoc delegates, not even party members across the state levels. So why are we not judged according to the 2022 Electoral Act, which stopped party members apart from ad hoc delegates? So if we were even looked upon on that, and again, that nothing can stand on nothing, are we now saying that the national party of the national committee of any party is not in charge of the state? The Constitution did not recognize the state organ of any party, but it recognized the national, who is the sponsor. And the national party has sponsored every candidate to INEC, and INEC has adopted that. And the nomination was done by the ad hoc delegate as is being adopted by the national working committee of that party.
All right, we need to start winding up.
At that level, let's leave these congresses aside. Were we nominated by the congresses? No. Were we nominated by the state structure? No. We were nominated by the national working committee of the PDP at the national level, just like it was for the APC, for the Labour Party, and just like it was, and that was why the former Senate president was able to scale through that. He was nominated by the national party.
Okay, so essentially what he's saying is that the state structure is immaterial in the conduct of primaries.
You can never see.
And the law does not recognize that in the Constitution.
I may need to send Honorable a bill at the end of this program for free legal advice, for legal advice. The beautiful scenario he has painted is restricted to primaries. And that has not been the contentions of the various parties that have challenged their qualification in court and successfully done so. PRP has done so, Labour has done so, APC has done so. In the eye of the law, as we speak today, there is no PDP on the plateau. And that is why these decisions does not cut across the PDP all over the country. It is with respect to Plateau. All the elective offices in Plateau. They should accept the fact that in the eye of the law, as we speak now, there is no PDP on the plateau for it to participate even in an election. That is a position.
So,
so he's confusing that with their primaries. Beautiful, no matter.
No, I think he's from what you say, just trying to make a distinction, because so many are saying the conduct of primaries, the law doesn't recognize the Congress, but you're saying that there's a process to the entire thing that has to be built. But they're saying, look, the key process law recognizes is the primaries.
And the summary of all I'm saying is this. In the eye of the law, as we speak now, there is no PDP on the plateau.
Well, they've gone upstairs. The tribunal did say, yes, they conducted the valid, they obeyed the court, but the appeal says they did not obey the court. So many are saying, well, they'll go to the Supreme Court, which say, look, this matter, in fact, there are different people optimistic, something, no, they will not, as expected of lawyers. Two positions saying, the Supreme Court will say, no, this is an internal party.
And I can tell you one thing, if their lawyers are on this side, they will argue the same point I'm arguing.
Okay, so
and brilliantly
in the event that the case he mentioned about lawyers, but I think what I get from you is what he's saying is not the same matter with the lawyer.
It's not the same.
But if it were the same matter, that would be professional misconduct.
I cannot represent you in a matter, then turn around in the same matter and represent your opponent. That is absolutely prohibited. But if the dispute is between, if you have a dispute with Mr. Kayode, for instance, I represent you today, nothing stops me from representing Moape, for instance, in a dispute with you. Nothing stops me.
All right. We'll have to thank both of you for coming on. See what happens with the next scenario at the Supreme Court. Steve Abba, former member, Judicial Service Commission of Plateau State, the former second vice president of the ABA, a former vice chair of SPEEDL. So this was the time of the APC, wasn't it? The Judicial Service Commission.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we also had Honorable Dachshund Bagos, former member, National Security and Intelligence Committee, is a member of the PDP. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Ayo.
Well, clearly we're out of time now. Chamberlain is just about 5 minutes before the show ends, and I was hoping that we'd get some of our messages through, but we could not. However, I guess what we can only say at this time is thank you. Thank our people for the privilege of being a part of your morning today. Thank you for all of the messages.
I thought we had Lagos, some data from there.
Well, yeah, those data, perhaps just to raise the issues, because I was hoping that we'll be able to have a conversation around it this morning. It's about that information put forward by the candidate of the Labour Party in the governorship election of Lagos, talking about the Lagos government spending. For instance, and the source, of course, is the Lagos State Public Procurement Agency. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see a few of them before we get out of here this morning. Servicing of photocopying machines, for instance, in the office of the deputy governor is put at 6.6 million naira. That's one right there. Procurement of brand new Lexus 600 LX bulletproof sport utility vehicle SUV for the office of the chief of staff, 440.7 million naira. A whole lot of questions on that one. What does the chief of staff need that one for? Of course, there are some explanations from the office of the, from the Lagos State government as well, saying that this particular one is not just for one individual, it's for some other MDAs. But why is it under the budget line of the chief of staff? Some questions that have to be raised about that one. Let me just take this last one. Procurement of 20 unit brand new Leyland vehicles, put at 1.6 billion naira. A whole lot of things that one is wondering where it's all coming from. We've attempted to get the Lagos State government to come and respond to some of these issues. We're hoping that we'll be able to get some feedback from them, Chamberlain.
Well, yes, we also saw some statements circulating saying credited to the office of the deputy governor of the state, and that he had written to the procurement agency seeking clarification on that information or publication, which continues to generate debate. He says that information on their website is untrue, mischievous, fake, and unfounded. So he's seeking clarification from that agency, saying, furnish me with these details, that if you can have this kind of detail on your platform and it's untrue, you can then imagine. So all sorts circulating. So we're just trying to get all of them on board to shed a lot more light on this matter. Probably not heat. Well, that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Goodbye.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a brilliant day.